Hello, and welcome back to Board to Life. This is part 2 of the third scenario called Aftershock, and in the last one, or the last part of this, we were exploring the main area of Caerburg again, but now it was damaged, so we were trying to help some of the people and deal with some issues that happened after the quakes. Now, we have entered the center of town where we have the city hall as well as some other buildings, and we have just begun this exploration. As the previous exploration, I will not have the scenario book on the camera because I would rather have this map on the camera so you can see where I'm going. However, I will still be reading the scenarios as usual, and we shall begin. Okay, so the ending of the previous one said that these were over by the florist were tamers, and if there was time we could have a word with them. Now, being that we have 2 rounds and it's not much of a threat right now, we probably could have a word with them. I feel like that's a little bit of a hint. So that's script C29. And as far as I could tell, there were not any secrets on this, but there probably are. They're just hidden better than the first couple. So C29. Here, an elderly woman says with a sad smile, "A roll for you, and a flower." You look at her in surprise, but she encourages you with a nod. "I am too old to help the builders," she adds. "My shop is still intact, so this is the least I can do. Hand people flowers and bread stuff. I hope it will help soothe the despair." So I could chat with her, or I could leave. If I chat with her, it will heal my missling, but it will take time. And I don't think it's worth it with my current status, because I'm not in a bad spot with that. So I'll just leave that. I thought that would be the tamers by the cart, or by the florist. I guess I don't know which building's the florist. Let's try 33 then, because there's some people outside. So script C33. If you have time passes, we go to script 46. I shouldn't have time passes because this is the first of the 2 scenarios I'm doing. I think. Yeah, I don't have time passes. I should put this next to the board so I can reference it easier. Okay. So instead, you chance upon a group of disturbed tamers eagerly discussing a matter. As you approach, they stop talking and greet you with respect. Choose one. So we can talk about what happened. If we don't have any part of the tamer's morale, which we don't, we can train with them if slot 3 is empty, or we can ask about places from the visions, which would take time. I'm curious what train with the tamers does, if that's like a fight. He might be. Let's ask about the place from the visions because that's one of our main goals right now. So that will advance time, but we go to script C44. The tamers know next to nothing about the places from the visions, but they listen to you intently, eager to learn the things you know. A trainee suggests that the Duchess may know something about the things that nag you. Her colleague also asks you to try your luck with the travelers in the tavern. So I'm gonna not continue asking about that stuff until I talk to the Duchess there, but let's see. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna try to train with them, I think. That feels like a good choice. Or I can wait, where was that? There we go. 33. Yeah, let's try to train with them. So that's script C100. The tamer's request for training feels like a mix of a challenge and a vote of confidence. Given the uncertain times, it's understandable that they'd seek assurance and may doubt your long-term presence in Caerburg. With the mounting events, it's likely you'll be away soon. You agree to a single duel. One of the brightest minds, Juliet, steps up, tenderly stroking her siren's head. Place token A in slot 3. And then we set up combat. And we will not be able to tame the enemy. So let's go ahead and set up that combat, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our combat setup. So I will go through everything as usual, and then we will begin combat. So, For this combat, I will be playing Furple, the Mistling I acquired the last scenario. And I will just go through the simple abilities of Furple again. But I won't go through all the cards or anything. So 0 willpower, 1 defense, 20 health, 2 attack, 2 speed. And then for the abilities, and these are probably readable on the actual camera when they're down the table, but for 1 power I can splash, which gives my attacks pierce 3. For 4 power I can do water drain, which will interrupt 1 for every puddle within range 2 of the chosen opponent, and then for every card discarded, the opponent will take a damage. And then our water elemental bonus action is 4 power for flow, which moves the opponent by its movement and allows me to heal 1. So that's for my stuff. And then these cards actually aren't as readable as I thought they would be. There. Let's just make sure that they are. That's better. Okay. So, for our opponent, we have a Siren, which has a fun little water splash ability on the base. Which has a fun water splash like effect on the base. Okay, and then we also have, we'll go through this terrain, and then I'll go through the Siren abilities. So we are fighting in the Eclipse City. So there's a portal in these 2 spaces. So 1 portal here. Let's try to get that portal shown. And then there's a portal here as well. And essentially the enemy cannot move or be placed in a space of the portal. And every time I would move to or be placed in a space of the portal, I take 2 damage and my Mistling moves within range 1 of another portal. I'm probably not going to intentionally do that, but I might change my mind on that. We'll see. Because it doesn't seem like a great thing to be taking damage. However, we also have to remember that during the fight with Siren, we will not be able to tame it, so we will actually have to take all of its health. So we have 0 willpower, 2 defense, I am on the right side, yes. 2 defense, 25 health, 3 attack, and 2 movement. And then we have a very small card that I'm definitely going to read through because you're probably not going to be able to see it on the table, even with the camera. So for a passive, when the opponent moves to or through a space with a whirlpool, discard that whirlpool, and that opponent gains 4 damage and slow. And then if it's fighting a fire, it'll be 6 damage and slow instead. If Siren has resurface, which is a wind marker, it's interesting that that's wind, but I guess with the whirlpool being the other, we can rush +2, attack, and blink 4 away from the opponent. Otherwise, we heal 4, blink 3 away from the opponent. If Siren has resurface, attack, move the opponent by its movement value towards the closest whirlpool. Otherwise, place a whirlpool in an empty space in range 2. I get the idea this is going to be a very difficult fight, and I might not win. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, let's begin. So, as usual, I will get to go first. Actually, there's something I have to go through still. I forgot to set up the special ability deck. So the special ability will activate on round 2. And there will be a whirlpool in the middle space. So let me just do that real quick and come right. Okay, I've grabbed our tokens and the enemy attack deck now. And just to mention, the Siren has a maximum of 5 whirlpools and 1 resurface. So, let's actually start our fight now. So, let us begin with apparently no elemental cards. Interesting. So, Siren will be beginning by placing a whirlpool in an empty space in range 2. That does have to be an empty space, so that's helpful. But I kind of just want to get away right now, then. So let's go ahead and use a clear throat. Okay. One moment. Let's try that again. So, I will go ahead and use Offensive Stance, which will start off by giving me 3 power. And then it gives me a +1 power for its actual effect. And a bonus to my damage, so long as it's face up there. And then I'm going to go ahead and what was I gonna? I'll get rid of one for a prepare. So I'll discard hit and run, which will also slide these over and give me one new one. And then I won't be able to do that yet. However, I should still be able to go ahead and do a dash. So let's just dash away a little bit. Because I know I can get some crazy movement at some point. And I'd like to be able to do that. So that will end my turn. Let's go to the enemy Siren's turn. Okay, so for Siren's turn, it will be a triangle activation. So for triangle, since there's no resurface, Siren will attack and then place a whirlpool in an empty space in range 2. So there will just be a whirlpool placed here. And then it goes back to my turn. I was also supposed to refill this attack track here. Now, let's go ahead and place where do we want puddles? We want to place them near opponents. So let's do Wave Thrust, which will first of all give me 2 power. And then allow me to place a puddle in range 3. And that will be right on Siren's space. And then I can move up to twice. So I'm just going to move once. I'm going to make my second movement 0. And then I can attack, which will deal 2 damage because my strength value or attack value is 2. And then I can move twice again. And knowing that it'll be a square next. Oh, it'll just be healing. Why does there that's heal 4? I don't like that. Okay. They'll just be running anyway. So we will go, oh, but there'll be a special ability. So there will be attack. So we'll just go 1, 2, 1, 2. Put myself in the corner because I know I can get out of it with purple. Okay. And is that going to be my only one? Yes. So I will end my turn there. And unfortunately, there will just be healing, but oh well. This might be a tricky fight that I might not win. Okay. So it'll be a square activation now. Since there's no resurface yet, there will be in a moment. We're going to heal 4, which will just get rid of the damage I just did. And then blink 3 away. So just right over here. And then Siren will gain resurface. So we'll just place this little token over here by the Siren card. Okay, so what can I do about this? I'm on a pedal space, so... Oh, it's what the opponent's in. The opponent's not on any special spaces, so there's no point using Tide of Variety. I could use Plunge, which might actually just make the most sense. So let's just use Plunge. So I can place up 2 puddles in range 3, which I will do. I'll place one right over here, and they have to be this direction though, so they're not whirlpools, and one over here. And then I can blink to any space of the puddle. So I will actually just blink right up here. And that gives me 2 power. Do I want to use any bonus actions? There's no puddles within range 2 of the enemy, so that's kind of pointless. So I mean, I could move the opponent. I'm actually better off moving myself away now, realizing everything. So, or, yeah. I just want to back up too. Kind of impractical, but oh well. So I will now end my turn. And then we go over to the enemy track. And we do a triangle activation again. Since Siren does have resurface, we will move the opponent, being me, by my movement. Sorry. Wait. Was that a triangle activation? Yeah, it was. I was thinking it was a square. So I get moved towards the closest whirlpool by 2. And otherwise, it would attack. But I just basically get sucked into this whirlpool. And upon going into the whirlpool, I get slowed and I take 2 damage. Does it discard? Yeah, it does discard the whirlpool. So that's nice at least. I'm going to take the damage, at least I lose it. And slow will reduce my speed by 1. I have to get a token for that though. I found the token. So, I'll put this little slow token right there. And then take 4 damage, which is quite a bit. So not too happy about that part. But oh well. Then I will get to go again. And I think what I might do here... I'm really slow right now, though. It's half my speed. Is that one of the ones that goes away at the end of the turn, though? Yeah. So I'll lose that after my turn. So that helps. I'm going to go ahead and do Reinvigorating Splash in that case. Knowing, well, because it's going to move me by my move value, which will be 2 to the nearest whirlpool, but... So I think I'm actually going to go ahead and get away. Only 1, though. So I won't be able to get away far enough anyway. I'll be taking another hit. So let's just not move. Let's do Reinvigorating Splash. So I'll place 2 puddles near me. And then I can discard 3 puddles in range 3 and heal 2 for every puddle I discard. So I'll discard 2 puddles, if I can. And then I will heal 4. So I follow up with just healing that damage back. And that does actually give me 1 power as well. I will then have to end my turn. I get another Reinvigorating Splash. This is going to be a fight. We're just constantly healing. Okay. So we go over here. I need him to come back to me, which he doesn't want to do right now. Since there's resurface, it'll move me by my movement value, basically sucking me into that whirlpool too. So that whirlpool goes away. I take 4 damage again, which I just healed. I also would lose that slow at the end of my turn. And then I get the slow back. Wonderful. I wish it would move. I mean, I can move it, but it's not practical, because it cost me 4. Anyway, it goes back to my turn. I might have no choice but to do that, though. Yeah, let's do that. Or, This might be manageable, actually. I am going to know... Okay, so it's another whirlpool, which there is no whirlpools right now. So what I'm going to do is pay 4 to move Siren 1 space over here to that pedal space. Because I have Tide of Variety, and that will do damage. And then I will use 1 more energy to go ahead and move myself 1. And then I use Tide of Variety for my actual action card. Gain 2 power, and deal 4 damage. So I'm going to take that 4 that's on... I need to grab more, actually, because I didn't think there'd be that many 1s out at any given time. Okay. So I've dealt 4 damage, and that would bypass the armor. Actually, that's an interesting question to bring up here. Do the whirlpools deal direct damage? No, it's gains force, so nothing protects from it. That's even worse. Okay. Yeah, because I haven't hit it with an actual attack, because it does have a defense. Anyway, that gets discarded. And then we scoot this down, replace that. I bumped the camera. That's number 1. And we go to enemy turn. It's another Tide of Variety that I got to. I'm going to get some fatigue very soon here, though. So triangle activation. Since there's a resurface, we're moving the opponent to the closest whirlpool, which actually does nothing. That's convenient. But very soon it's not going to be convenient. Okay. So I think what I want to do here, since that whole enemy attack track is full, I should be able to get some good damage from Water Drain. But is that even practical still? Because it will, I guess it would do 5. It would only do 5 damage if I have 5 puddles. So I honestly get more damage out of Tide of Variety for like the cost. So I'm going to use Tide of Variety again. Unfortunately, I only gain 1. But from doing that, or is there... Yeah, that's the best way to do it. So we do Tide of Variety, I gain my 1, and then we deal 4 damage. Which means we're going up to 8, so I'll discard that and give a 5. And then we discard the card. We get our next card, which is just a pummel. It's a good thing I'm so close. Now, we go to enemy turn, and next turn I should use Water Drain if I can. Because it's actually going to be practical. And if you can, in case you weren't aware of what the, what's it called, interruptibility does, it discards the cards from the opponent's track from the right. Which is nice because it can actually extend the time it takes to use the special ability. But in this case, that's not going to happen. So, let's go ahead and I guess do the actual activation because I didn't do it as a square. So since it's resurface, it's rush plus 2, attack, and then blink 4 away, which is not ideal. But let's do it. So you don't need to rush because it's already there. And then attack, which will be 3, except that it's actually going to be 2 because I have a defense. So we will take one of those 5s and put it on. They're more injured than me at least, but they also have more health. And then blink 4 away, so that would just be teleporting over here essentially. A lot of blinking with this. It's a weird fight when you have 2 waters. This might have been easier with Luminessa, just because of the damage at any range. But oh well. So, I will go ahead and do Reinvigorating Splat. Oh, I'm not in a situation for Water Drain now. That's unfortunate. I also am not slowed anymore. I guess we'll just have to hold that. So, Reinvigorating Splash, I'll place 2 puddles in my range 2. And then I will discard up to 3 puddles in range 3. So I'll get rid of those now, absorbing that water to heal myself for 6, because it's 2 for every puddle I absorb, or that I discard that way. So I'm back down to 1 health. I kind of like the function of this resurface marker essentially just making Siren have 2 different phases that it switches between. It's kind of a fun concept. Anyway, I don't believe I gained my 2 power. Hopefully that's the case. But we do that, and then we resupply or refill this spot in the track. And our enemy thing is going to be resetting itself, our enemy deck. So we will now have a square activation, and we also will have to gain a fatigue. Now, with gaining fatigue, I'm not entirely sure about this, but I'm pretty sure you only gain the fatigue after the combat. Correct me on that if I'm wrong, but we'll put that over there, and I will gain it after the combat. So, we go to the square activation, and since there is a resurface, we are doing a rush +2, attack, and then blink 4 away. So rushes up to me, hits me for 2 damage because I have a defense, and then blinks backwards again. Okay, and then it goes to my turn. Now, I have normal speed and everything, and their movement is 2. I'm going to go ahead knowing that's a triangle next, which will be doing nothing. Use a heavy strike, which will first of all give me 3 power, which is nice. Oh, yeah, but afterwards. So I will first use 1 power to do a dash, moving me up. Then I will use heavy strike, first of all gaining 3 power, and then hitting an opponent at range 1 and moving them up to 2 spaces. So I will hit Siren for 1 because they have defense. So that part's not great. But I will then go ahead and move Siren over here, because I can't move him into the portal space, or her probably. I don't know. And then reset all that, because I don't have anything else that's practical. Now I can pierce armor. And actually, I would have to, because otherwise it's going to do 0 damage. So I will use another power to actually do a pierce on that. Pierce of 3, so it acts like there's no armor. Therefore, I would do 2 damage, putting him at 10. Or her at 10. And then we have the enemy activation. So that's going to be a triangle. Triangle will, since there's a resurface, do nothing, because there's no whirlpools. And then we have the special ability activate. So since there is a resurface, we rush, attack, and retreat. So rush, attack. Attack does 2 damage to me, which puts me at 5. And then retreat will back up 2, which isn't really practical, but oh well. And then discard the resurface marker. So we're back to the original attack pattern, which involves healing, unfortunately. Now, I need to get some damage in. Let's go ahead and take Honed to Perfection, maybe? No, that doesn't make sense. Primal Shot, I think. Is there a way I can place... Oh, well, I could just... Flow is too expensive. Let's just do Primal Shot. And then that will deal 2 damage. But it will also give me 2 power. So 2 damage to Siren. Because I know there's going to be healing coming up. Soon. Not yet. So we will, and then we'll be placing whirlpools on their turn. So I should also go ahead and question what do I not want, because I can prepare to discard. So let's do a prepare in order to discard Pummel. And then I'll get 1 card back immediately for that. And then I'll get another card for ending my turn. Okay, this looks a little better now, because we got a wave thrust. So now we go enemy turn. I'm going to get several points of exhaustion from this. So we do a triangle. And for triangle, since there's no resurface, we're placing a whirlpool in an empty space in range 2. So it's basically going to be in one of these 3 spaces. Let's put it down here. Now we go back to my turn. And I will go ahead and, I guess, place a puddle in range 3 first of all. If I want to use wave thrust, do I though? Yeah, let's use wave thrust or plunge. Let's do wave thrust because then I get some damage. But first of all, I use one for the splash ability, so my attacks have Pierce 3. And then we do wave thrust, so we move. Now that's one move right there. Let's do a second move to get there. And then attack with the Pierce 3, which means I actually do my 2 damage. And then I get to move twice again. I also was supposed to place a puddle before. So let's just place a puddle right on their space. Or are they going to be moving? No. So right next to their space. And I do the damage, which I did. And then I get to move. So I'm way far away now. That's the nice part about playing Furple. And then I'm going to go ahead and use 1 energy to do a prepare, discarding Honed to Perfection. And I need to stop bumping the camera. And that gives me Smart Approach back. And then I will have to reshuffle my deck before ending my turn because I have run out of cards. Which doesn't have any negative impacts on me, it's only the opponent's that does. Otherwise, fatigue could be an advantage. We got a primal shot back. And then we'll go to Siren's turn. So we go over here. And it's a triangle, meaning there's only 2 squares left, I think. Actually, the square might have been the first thing, so there might actually be a square and a triangle left, which would be even better. And then Siren will go ahead and try to place a whirlpool as close as possible to me, which is not that close. So, this is definitely an interesting fight. I'm starting to think I might actually win. I didn't initially. So, it becomes my turn. And I think it would make sense to actually start off with a prepare. So I'll discard Smart Approach, and then I get another card back that way. Still not great. I'm not gonna be able to attack if I do that. It's gonna be a square, so it's gonna be heal 3 or heal 4 and then run away. So I should try to do some damage to make up for that healing. The closest I can get is range 3 without teleporting, and teleporting requires the plunge ability. However, what I think I can do is I can use plunge, gain my 2 power from that, and then place 2 puddles in range 3, which will do this. Well, it'll be here. And then go ahead and blink to a space of the puddle, which I actually don't. I'll just blink to my own space. And then I'll go ahead and reset this, but before to actually reset it, we'll count this because I want to go ahead and water drain, which will go ahead and interrupt to 3 because there are 3 puddles within range of the opponent, and it doesn't discard those puddles, and that's within range 2. So interrupt 3 will get rid of these 3 cards. I know I am putting myself in a position to get a resurface marker for Siren, but that's fine with me. I'll do those 3 because that will deal 3 instant damage. And I'm not going to put these in form of a larger token because I know they're going to get healed in a moment here. So let's just go ahead and do that now. Next enemy attack, square activation. So we will be having Siren heal 4, which is not great, but it's acceptable in this case. And then blink 3 away. So all the way on the other side of the map. And then we have to do that special ability, which is gaining the resurface marker. So we go back to my turn now. And to start off my turn, I'm actually going to do a prepare because I really need less of these starter cards in my deck. And I'll just get rid of a basic pummel card. And then place that, which is another card I don't really want, but that's fine. We'll make it work, maybe, potentially. I'm not going to be able to get over there. But what I can do is I can trigger, that way I get my 3. And I will trigger hit and run, which lets me attack at -1, which is not what I'm going for here. What I am going for is moving my 2. Am I okay with getting hit by that whirlpool, though? I think I have to be. And there's no point in me using power to move again, because if I do, I'll just get moved back towards that whirlpool. So I might as well use the whirlpool for my own movement. Okay. So Siren activation, triangle. Since there's a resurface, it will move me by my movement value towards the closest whirlpool, which is right here. And that will get rid of the whirlpool, but then hit me for 4 damage, which I'm not a fan of. And then it will also give me slow, which is also not great. Okay. So we go back to my turn. And in a moment here, we'll have to get another fatigue, not exhaustion. Now, I'd like to get one of those healing ones. So I'm going to try to do that, because I know it's not going to go great otherwise. So let's go ahead and get rid of offensive stance with the prepare. I knocked over the portal. And that gives me a plunge, which is not quite what I was going for. So I'm not actually sure if I can get close enough. I don't think I can. Actually, that's not true. I can get close enough by moving the opponent. I have no idea what's coming next for this, though, so that's kind of risky, but we'll go for it. I'm going to use 4 power for the flow elemental action, so I can move the opponent by its movement value, which will be 2, so we'll go like that. And then I also get to heal 1 from that, which is nice. And then I normally wouldn't do that, though. But I'm going to go ahead and place a puddle in range. I don't get to place a puddle if I do that. This is tricky. Because Primal Shot I'm out of range for. And out of power. And I don't have enough. Oh, actually, I do, because I have offensive stance. So I'd still do 1 damage. So let's do Wave Thrust. And I'll go ahead and take this puddle that's... do I want to keep that as an escape route? Yes. So I will place this puddle over here. And then move 1, 2, because I'm slowed. attack, which will deal 1 damage, which isn't great, but it's something. Because I don't have enough power to do it any other way. This also gives me 2 power. But I can't use that for splash right now. And then I can move twice again, which will get me just far enough away from that whirlpool to be safe if they do that attack. And then we fill this back in with Honed to Perfection. And we'll have to go to the enemy turn, which is less great because I gain another fatigue. So I'm going to go grab that fatigue real quick and be right back. Okay, so I have gained another fatigue on Purple. And then I will reshuffle this enemy attack deck. If I can get the cards. Okay. Other direction. So now we have a square activation. So since the Siren has resurface, rush +2, which gets plenty close, and then attack and blink 4 away. So attacking for 3, dealing 2, will put me on 10 total damage, which is not all that much less than Siren's on. And then we will go ahead and blink 4 away, as it said, which gets all the way over there. And then my turn. I'm no longer slowed, so that's good. Which means I can move quite fast, because I can also move 4. And actually, I think I will, because that seems like the most practical option here. I'm going to get my Pierce ability back from Splash, for 1. And then I will gain 2 to do Wave Thrust. So I first of all can place a puddle in range 3. Which I actually don't want to do. And then I will move, attack, which will deal 2 damage. Meaning 1 of these little things will be left, and we'll place 5. So we're at 16 damage on Siren. And then I get to move twice again. But I have to put myself 1 away so I don't get sucked in if they do that. And then I'm going to prepare, and I will get rid of Primal Shot with that. And I'll end my turn, so I'll just refill the entire track. There's Reinvigorating Splash. I'm going to need that in a second here. And this goes face down. But let us go ahead and not get the cards stuck on the table. That's why I have the playmat. So triangle activation. So since there's a resurface, it will be attack and then move the opponent by its move value. Move the opponent by its move value towards the closest whirlpool, which will move me 2, but I'm not touching it, so it's fine. And that's it. And then we will go ahead and take my turn, which will be Reinvigorating Splash. I can place up to 2 puddles in range 2, and then discard up to 3 puddles. So there's no reason for me to place any. So I'll just discard up to 3, and I'll discard these 3, not 2. Which means I will heal 6 damage. And I go back down to 4 total on me. And that also gives me 2 power. And then we get another Tide of Variety. So, we go to Siren's turn. I was supposed to discard the resurface for a rush attack retreat. I wouldn't have gotten it close enough to do the attack though, so it would have just been bounced back. So, we then go to enemy activation again. Square. So no resurface, therefore heal 4 and blink 3 away. Can't blink 3 away because already as far as you can be. So we will heal 4, which removes the 5 and adds the 1. Okay. Back to 12 on them. So we both got our healing in that time. But now it's time to deal some damage, hopefully. Hopefully. I'm not actually sure that I can. but I'd like to. I don't have any damaging cards unless I can move Siren to a different space. And I'm pretty sure that we're not able to put the enemy in the portal spaces. Yeah, that's correct. So that's not great. I'm going to do a prepare and get rid of Hone to Perfection here. For Heavy Strike, that looks a little better now. Now the next thing that's going to be done is a triangle. So that will be placing a whirlpool. Which means if I do Heavy Strike, but I have to move too. That's tricky. So Heavy Strike after I do a move. So we'll do a little dash action here. Move my 2 and then Heavy Strike. So I can hit my opponent. Did I want to do a splash? Yeah. Because then I actually do damage. And then I can move my opponent by their movement speed, which will be 2. Whacking them to the side. And then we'll just restock that with a reinvigorating splash. So now we go to enemy turn. Triangle, we will place a whirlpool in range 2. So let's place one right here next to Furple. And for my turn, which we are now back to, I'm very close to not being able to actually gain any more fatigues. I only have one more spot that I can gain one. So this is probably not great, but I'm assuming this is the last fight of the scenario too, and that there isn't some crazy difficult fight at the end. And if there is, good luck, Luminessa. Anyway, let's go ahead and hit Siren with... I could plunge. It's not particularly good though. I mean, it would do damage actually. So knowing that that's a triangle next, that will do attacking. So let's go ahead and plunge, placing 2 puddles in range 3. And then blinking to a space of the puddle, which will be over here, because I don't want to go too far away. And that also gives me 3 power. Now with that 3 power, or I should say with the 4 power I have, I can use Water Drain. So I interrupt 1 for every puddle. And we'll do that, which will be 3, and therefore do 3 damage. So we are now at having done 17 damage to Siren. And not a great situation otherwise. So let's reset this Mistling deck again. And refill that last slot with another plunge. Okay. So Siren turn, we will have the activation. So triangle first. No resurface, therefore placing a whirlpool in range 2 after an attack. Right there, because it has to be an empty space. And proceeding with the special ability, so gaining the resurface. So we're back to that phase. And then, for my turn, I'd like to actually do some damage, but that's going to be rather difficult. So, I think I'm going to instead use Reinvigorating Splash to place another puddle in range 2. And then discard some puddles. So I'll just discard the 2 that are closest to me. And then I heal 4, which is all of my health. And that would give me 2 power. And I don't think there's anything I want to do with that 2 power. So then we will do this. Since there's a resurface marker, it's going to be sucking me towards a whirlpool that's close to me. Now if I have to pick, I will pick the one closer to them, I think. So yes, let's go ahead and do that. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. And then I get moved towards this whirlpool, which will then hit me for 4 damage and give me slow. But I'm close enough that the slow shouldn't matter. The damage still matters, so that's not great. Anyway, let's now go ahead and take my turn, and then I'll be gaining an exhaustion, and we don't really want to do that. Or sorry, fatigue, I keep calling it exhaustion. Okay, so I need to do some damage. And the best way for me to do some damage is by doing a plunge. Not plunge, pummel. So first of all, I do want to do a dash to get closer, and then I have to do a splash to bypass the armor. And then we will pummel, which will give me 1 back. And it will do some damage, and that damage is 2. So not amazing. And then we just refill that slot. And the enemy track will have to be emptied because the enemy deck is being reset. And I will have to gain a fatigue because of that, which is not great. That will be added to the Luminessa deck. And it's the last fatigue I can gain, so let me go do that and be right back. Okay, so we have fatigue to add to the Luminessa deck. And we will continue, and hopefully not gain any more fatigue, because that would be bad. So enemy activation, triangle. Since there's a resurface, we will be attacking, which is not what I had hoped for. That will do a 5. So we're at 6. I would lose the thing there. And then it sucks me towards the whirlpool. I take 4 damage, which is not great. That puts me at 10 total again. And then I get slowed once more. Now, back to my turn. I'd really like to get that movement. So I'm going to Tide of Variety, gain 3 power, and then use that power to do Flow, move the opponent over here, and gain and heal 1 because that's a fun little bonus part of that ability. And then Tide of Variety, since they're on a pedal space, which is shown there, they will take 4 damage, which is much better than what was happening before, because that's 21 total damage. So I just need 4 more damage on them. So we move over here. Probably going to take some damage here. That's a significant amount. Is that a square? That's a square. So, since there's a resurface, it's rush plus 2. Right there. Attack, which will be 2. Which is, I guess, just gain a 5 and lose 3 ones. And I suppose that's a 10. I can do math. So I'm at 11. And then going ahead and blinking 4 away. So we'll just go 1, 2, 3. Wait, I can choose. Let's do 4 like that, so they're at least on a useful space to me. And then, what was I? Oh. And then we go ahead and use a special ability, so we discard that resurface, and then rush, attack, retreat, which will just be 2 attack, 2 back. So, I seem to have not refilled my attack track, but it becomes my turn. And I'm no longer slowed, which is nice. So, let's go ahead and do a... Ooh. That's tricky, actually. So I only need a couple more points of damage dealt. Let's do a trigger for 2. Use 1 to splash, and we'll trigger wave thrust. So wave thrust will allow me to place the puddle in range 3. Place it over there. And then I can move twice. And then attack for 2. Which means I only need to do 2 more damage. So close to this. And they're not going to be healing next turn, so I have a chance. And then I can move twice again. Now, knowing that they're just going to be placing they'll be attacking and then placing a whirlpool, I'm just going to step back 1. And well, if I step back, I might just take the attack, actually. No, I step back 1 this direction, because then I can still move correctly. Okay. So, we'll just move that 1 back. And that also clears up my attack track a little bit, so that as I refill it here, I still don't have anything great, but I have a chance. So let's go ahead and do enemy turn. Triangle. Probably final enemy turn here, which is getting really close to being really bad for exhaustion. So let's see. Triangle activation would be place a whirlpool in an empty space in range 2. It has to be empty though. So it's actually going to be over here. And then for my turn, I simply have to get over there. So let's go ahead and discard that to get rid of Smart Approach. And I guess get Offensive Stance instead, which also isn't great. I might actually not be able to do 2 damage this turn. What does search do? You choose cards. Well, since I can't do reliable damage right now, and it's going to be the same turn again for Siren, I'm going to do Tide of Variety. So I gain 3 power. And since they're in a teardrop or water drop space, I'll heal 2. Putting me at 9. And then I search 2. And search is look at the top X cards of your deck, choose one and you place it on the top. So I can choose between Wave Thrust, which will give me an attack, or Plunge. So Wave Thrust is the choice, and the others go on the bottom, in any order. Okay. So we've done that. We have an enemy turn here. So we do a triangle. And therefore it will be attack, and then place a whirlpool, which will be right there. I take my turn, which then makes it... Oh, I didn't discard Tide of Variety. Oops. So I will simply Wave Thrust. I can place a puddle in range 3, so I might as well. And then I get to splash, so that will cost me a power. But I get to move over here. I would also gain that power back, though. And then attack, bypassing the 2 armor, dealing 2 damage, bringing him to 25 damage on him. which means I will win. So, in the case of end of combat, we will go to script CO1, and I will cut to whatever that looks like in a moment here. Okay, so the cleanup from that. So, first of all, this is the artwork from that fight. I didn't show it before, but I'll show it now, and it's probably the cover of the video. And then when the fight is over, you discuss with Juliet for a moment, explaining that what she could do a little better and what she did great. Her siren is a little bruised, but also seems eager to learn more. So we'd heal up to half our health, and then I add card 157 A side up to the Mistling Encyclopedia, which I have done. Right here, we have Siren in their encyclopedia now. And then we will actually get to choose between 3 random cards from the advancement deck. If I can grab the advancement deck. Wonderful. Okay, so here we have our advancement deck. So we shuffle the advancement deck. We draw 3 cards. So I can choose between Swiftness for a double move, Push, which can move an opponent in range 3 by up to 2 spaces. Have to be away from you though. Or you can spend 2 to trigger. And then there's Deliberate Strike, which is attack twice basically. I like the idea of Push because I like being able to move the enemies. So I'm going to take Push and add it to my unlocked cards. And then we will continue our exploration as it was before. Okay, so back to the town square. Now, there is one time thing left here. However, I'm not entirely sure if there's more happening inside of the town hall itself that uses this time or not. I'm going to assume that there is, but I'm also going to assume they're going to give us enough time to do more out here. So I'm going to go to C36. You enter the smithy and watch in awe as the blacksmith forms a white-hot arrow tip with careful hits from her hammer. So we can choose to either buy equipment for the upcoming journey, which will be actual equipment, or we can leave. So I guess the way we determine this is by looking at our actual equipment. I like the phosphorescent fungus for its use cases, but I don't really care about the bag of powder. So I think I actually will do this because I have a lot of silver. So I'm going to use 3 of my silver to go ahead and buy equipment for our journey. Which means I get to draw 3 equipment cards, gain 1, and discard the rest. So our 3 equipment cards are right here. We have Healing Liquid, which is a food option. And you can damage it or break it during combat to heal 1 for each space between you and the chosen opponent. And then if you have a water mistling, you heal 2 for each space between you and the chosen opponent. That could be a lot of healing in the case of water mistlings, especially since they're so fast already. We have Hemp Rope, so you can use it during combat. It's also a rope, but your passive effects that raise your statistics are doubled this turn. If you have an Earth Mistling, such effects are tripled instead. And then we have Liquefied Swiftness, which doesn't apply as a tool, but during combat you can blink 2 and attack, or attack and blink 2. If you have an Air Mistling, this attack has +2 damage and Pierce 2. So, I mean, from among those, my favorite ability would be the Healing Liquid. However, I probably would get more use out of the Hemp Rope because it still is a tool. So I'm going to take the rope, and I will use it to replace my bag of powder, which is also a rope item, but in this case, the hemp rope is something I'd rather have for its actual usability. So, we take that, and then we continue the exploration. Since I didn't use any time, I should still have time to go to like C66 over here. The inn is huge, noisy. The inn is a huge, noisy place designed to accommodate many travelers. Despite that, it's quite crowded, as many people who lost their homes seek shelter here. You've been here a few times, but to be honest, you prefer the Shaded Tavern, a small but cozier establishment. So, I can actually sell items here. So, I can basically spend an item to gain a silver more than one time if I want to. I actually think that's really worthwhile because I have a tendency to not use my items anyway. And therefore, I'm going to take my red berries. And I am going to, there's a little piece of something in the card sleeve. I'm going to sell these red berries. So it goes back to the item deck and I gain a silver. I like that this is an option. And then I will also, because I get to choose, I can choose again. I will choose to sell this treat as well, sending it back to the item deck. And in exchange, I get another silver. Now, let's see. I can then ask about places from the vision, which they did recommend, or I could approach the table if I have the future of Caerburg, which I do not. So, I will ask about the places from the vision. So I go to script C69. Hey, a stranger whispers, I've got the news you seek. I know a man who can enlighten you, but it's not for free, you know. So I can either pay for the information for 6 silver and time. I can trade for the information if I have a secret exit status, which I think I do. Yes, I do have that status. So I could essentially just tell him that, and that would work. Or I could try to lie about it, but I'm not going to do that because that's probably a bad idea, especially since it gives me a status. So I will trade for the information because I'd rather not spend my silver if I can do it for free, essentially, since I have the secret exit. So I can tell him that the tip of the secret passage to the collapsed ruins has a prize, which will take time, which I will spend. And then we go to script C75. I was a student in the academy once, a traveler tells you. A nice place, though located at the edge of the world. Oh, what a library they have there. An incredible selection of books, but strangely enough, they index their books by titles, not authors or topics. But wait, what was I at? Oh, I remember. There is a cartographer residing there, and I know for a fact he was called Eric Fisk. Perhaps you can talk to him. So we place token A in slot 5, and then I know what I need to continue my journey, so I can visit script C80 when I'm ready and just leave. So I might not even have to go to the Duchess, but I might as well. So we gain Academy Secrets Part 7. Interesting. Wherever that. Academy Secrets Part 7. Okay, and then we continue the exploration. However, I have to resolve Secret Card 5. So we go to script C77, which is actually right here still. So if token B is in slot 4, we go to 79. It's not. If token A is in slot 4, otherwise we read on. So the time is passing quickly, and you're tired. Your mistlings don't seem to be enjoying the situation either. And as if that were not enough, you're nagged by a weird sensation that someone is watching you. Gain a fatigue. Okay, wait. I need to reference what happens when you gain a fatigue if you can't. One moment. Okay, so in the case that I cannot gain fatigue, it will be 5 damage instead, which I will choose to put on Furple, because likely Furple's not fighting again this scenario, whereas Luminous is more likely to if I have to fight. So, let's see. Place Secret 5 down on the event slot. That's the same one I just revealed, and then we set the time to 2 again. So, essentially, I'm just going to keep getting more tired the longer I stay there, it looks like. And then place token A in slot 4. And continue the exploration. I do still want to go to the town hall. Just hopefully pretty fast. So C63. So if I have time passes, I do something else. But since I don't, there is a never-ending commotion in the city hall with messengers running about and clerks shouting orders. The Duchess has been forced to move her workspace to the main hall because her private office collapsed during the quake. So we can talk to the Duchess, which will take time, or we can talk to her assistant. Let's take the time to talk to her. Just one time. So C87. I go down to 1 on this. So the Duchess is pale and visibly in pain. Her leg is broken, but she tells you not to worry about her condition. I have been through worse, she assures you and focuses on you. Now tell me all you know about the dragon, the eclipse, and the portal. Moved by her kindness, you reveal everything to her. Then you start asking questions. The Duchess has no idea about the dark place with the bright kernel, but as you spin the story of the islands, her eyebrows rise. There is a scholar with whom I once spoke of these islands, she said. His name is Eric Fisk, and he is a cartographer living in the academy. So that will also give me my information. So it's the same information. So I continue the exploration, which I will end by going to C80. At least I assume that ends it, because usually leaving does. So if slot 5 is empty, you can't do that, but since it's not, you're looking for the way out of town. So I can either stay a little longer or leave the city. I will leave the city, which will send me to script C81 and end the scenario. End the scenario? It is an end scenario. Okay, we have a 2-episode scenario this time. I missed the thing that ends it though. So we were at C80, 81. Okay. Way too much page turning. Okay. It doesn't quite end the scenario, it looks like. So if token B is in slot 1 or token A is in slot 4, someone bumps into you but walks on. A minute later, you put a hand into the pocket and discover a pouch of silver together with a word of thanks. Gain 2 silver. I got reverse pickpocketed. Interesting. I almost have all the silver. Okay. That's interesting. So, if you have interference, part 5, you go to script C74. I don't think I do. Correct. If I have time passes, I go to C82, but instead I go to script C83. You've discovered a cartographer who seems to be your only lead to the Sky Islands plaguing your dreams. You've never been to the academy, where the man is located, but going there could be an excellent opportunity to soak up some knowledge. But there's one more pressing matter waiting for you. The monsters from beyond the portal. You must return to the glade, where the dragon has passed away, and pursue them. You must ensure they are not a threat to your community. So we gain time passes. And while we were busy in the city, killers of the dragon certainly used the time to pursue their goals. So we go time passes, and we X that on the sheet. We've reached the end of the scenario. So I am going to go ahead and go through the end of scenario stuff in a moment. I'm just going to cut to that, and I'll describe what happens. Okay, so for that end setup, or cleanup, whatever you want to call it, we first of all take the world map, and we have now flipped this card to explored, meaning that our next scenario is going to have to be Cold Trail. So you know what the title of the next video is probably going to be. Anyway, we'll be headed over there next because that's more important than going to the academy or wherever. In fact, they aren't even an option for us right now because it's that important. And then we've removed all fatigue and fully healed all of our mistlings. I've also realized that I actually only had 3 fatigue, not 4, which means I didn't have to take that damage. That doesn't really matter. It's fine. But actually it's not. So basically I'd have 1 less of these. But anyway, we first of all will take 4 advancement cards because 8 minus the amount of fatigue we had, which would have been 4 if I hadn't taken the damage. And we get those advancement cards. So our new advancement cards are a defensive position. So you can choose to discard another card, and then it has a passive of +2 defense, -1 attack. We have 2 of those. We have Swiftness, which is move. And we have Deliberate Strike, which is attack, and then attack again if you have at least 8 cards in your discard pile. So those will be our new advancement cards, except that I have to pick between them, which will be 3. So what I'll do is I'll just get rid of 1 defensive position back to the advancement deck, and we will gain those 3. Now, we have a pack to open. I don't know which one it is, but this is always the fun part. So let us see what is in it. And let's start with the fancies, because there's always foil on the one. So our foil card, fancy, is Nature's Patience, which is always textured too, which is nice. Okay, so it's gain 1 power, and then as a bonus action, which this is an upgrade or whatever, their enhancement, I think. You can use 1 power to release Wrath, which deals X damage in range 2, where X is your defense. That could potentially be really good. I mean, that is a legendary card, so that makes sense. Okay. Then we have Kindling. So we can attack and then gain 1 power for every 2 damage dealt with this attack. Fun. And that's fire. And then we have an earth again, so Stomp, deal 3 damage and silence to each opponent in range 2. Reduce this damage by the opponent's defense instead of their willpower. Interesting. And then it's +2 damage passive. 2 of those. Dark is Starving Bolt, so deal 3 damage in range 3 for every 3 neutral cards in your discard pile. That's an interesting concept. And if you're fighting light, you get to trigger as well. So you'll get to play another card. And then for our wind or air card, you get Wind Tunnel. Blink X, where X is your movement, and then trigger. So it's a movement, but it doesn't go over anything. And then you also get a trigger, so it's a free move, basically. For our light, we get Blinding Radiance. Discard all power. I like this card. Resolve the corresponding effect. If you discard 0 to 3, you deal 2 damage in any range. 4 to 8 discarded, you deal 6 damage and slow in any range. And 9 to 10, you deal 9 damage, slow and weak in any range. That is an insane card. I feel like this is one of those things where if you're doing PvP, it'd be really fun to build like a deck around this. So you just like focus everything on building up power and defense, and then you play that card. Okay, anyway. Combustion. Deal 2 damage with Pierce 1 in range 2 for every burn on the opponent. Interesting. I'm assuming that Pierce 1 is for every 2 damage as well. Like they're separate hits. And that's Pierce 1 to willpower as well, because it's direct damage. Interesting concept. Erratic Torrent. So, if you are in a droplet space, you move twice. If you are in an arc space, you attack twice. And if you're in a petal space, you attack with +2 and drain. Interesting. Okay, so those are our new cards. Thank you for watching this episode of Dragon Eclipse with Border Life. And we'll see you in the next one, where we will begin our next scenario, Cold Trail.